Hello, Perceptionists.
Welcome to Perceptionists Anonymous.
I'm Emily.
I'm Christiane.
And today we have a very special guest, and we're super excited to talk to him. David Weiss is here. He is a businessman who walked away from his very own successful company to pursue spreading the truth about our world. He's the host of the Flat Earth podcast, the creator of the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, which I'm super excited to talk about because I'm very curious about how the zodiac signs work if we're flat, so that's interesting. He has the amazing ability to take anyone from ridiculing the idea of flat Earth to the mind-blowing understanding that we don't live on a spinning, wobbling, rocketing water ball through space. He also shows us why the topic is one of the most important topics in this troubled time. David, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great, Emily and Christy. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for reaching out to us. We are, I don't know. I don't even think I don't know what I don't know yet at this point. So we're open.
Most people in the world don't know that they don't know. They think they know, but they have no idea. There's a lot that we don't know.
Yeah.
Or at least we know that we don't know. But one thing that we do know, I sound like Donald Rumsfeld the day after 9/11, is that we don't live on a spinning ball flying through an infinite vacuum, and that's provable, testable, repeatable, observable, measurable, scientifically. What you're going to find out in this conversation, I'm going to say some crazy, insane things. And I'm also going to say some things where you go, that's interesting. And the ones that are, that's interesting is when I'm describing the flat Earth. And when I describe the heliocentric ball model, it's insane. And the two things that people that don't like flat Earth, that think it's stupid, they have two things in common. One is they have a false conception of what the flat Earth is, and they have no, they have no idea what the ball model is.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
All right. So when you guys think of flat Earth, what do you think of?
Are you talking
think
like
of
visibly
a disc floating in space?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I think when I think of flat Earth, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is like the resistance that the church put up when Galileo presented the heliocentric model. So for me, it's almost like a return to the original idea that was really proponed, like, that we were the center of the universe and all of that, which I know isn't necessarily true, but that's like where my brain goes when I think flat Earth right off the bat is the historical context.
Right. But when we look at history, all of our history is a lie. Recently, do you know that in the early 1900s, 1920, even up to 1930, everybody on Earth knew the Earth was flat?
Really?
How
right?
is that?
Yeah.
Well, it was being taught here in Connecticut public schools and across the country to kids that the Earth is flat. And then they changed it. I was interviewing a 102-year-old woman back in February of 2020 about the World's Fairs. And she had such a great memory of her childhood. I asked her what they taught her in school in science. And she looked at me and she goes, they taught me the Earth was flat. And then we found a woman from Croatia. Actually, we found her beforehand. And she said in the 1930s, all the schools taught flat Earth. So then we looked up in microfilm articles, newspaper articles. There's tons of them. There's articles of teachers being persecuted for trying to teach heliocentrism in the school.
Okay.
So this was a takeover that happened 100 years ago, barely.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when you search flat Earth, you come up with a pancake floating in space with a bunch of other planets, and all of the puppet scientists, Bill Nye, the lion guy with the bow tie, and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Lying Box, they all push this crap propaganda, to make you laugh at flat Earth. If you Google flat Earth, as you said, Christy, you said you were searching it a little bit. You got tired right away.
Well, it was like impossible. Like, I guess I did a lot of it on YouTube because I was like, all right, let's hear some people talk about it. And it was just everyone responding to it, but it didn't give you a concise idea of what it was.
Right. Yeah, I looked at Reddit too, and Reddit was hard to even find things.
Oh my God, I would never read Reddit. It sounds terrifying. Everyone's so mean on Reddit.
It's so garbage. And so the internet is filled with lots of crap information. It's filled with paid shills that are in there just to muddy the waters. There's over 100 videos going every day getting uploaded to YouTube alone that are just crap videos that all have flat Earth in their titles. And it's to tire you out. It's they've taken so many dumps in the punch bowl, you can't find any fruit anymore.
Mhm.
So when I talk about my
Interesting.
app bypasses the YouTube algorithm that hides this information from you.
Huh.
So what is the flat Earth? So it's not a disk in space. So think of what a pond is, right? A pond is a body of water that accumulates where? At the low spot in the land, right?
Mhm.
And the edge of the pond is what? The land that is higher than the water surface,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So a lake is a bigger pond. Now think of a lake that has some islands in it, right? We'll call those islands continents. And the shoreline of the lake is where the land is higher than the water, and it holds the water in. So if you're on a boat and you were sailing circles around the lake, going around all the islands, would you, that you could circumnavigate the lake. And if you went away from the center in any direction, you're going to hit the shoreline. Will you fall off the lake?
Well, no.
No, you're not getting to the edge of a pancake. You're getting to the edge of the lake. So think of the world as, you know, I call it the world pond or the world lake. So all of the oceans of the world create a circular lake, and you have islands, which are the continents. And at the very center of the lake is the magnetic North Pole, right at the center of the lake. So if you laid a compass down, your compass needle always has to point towards the center of that lake. So east and west are circles around that northern center. And south is every direction away from the center. And when you get to the shoreline, that's the land that we call Antarctica. Antarctica might be bigger than all of the oceans and all of the continents combined. It's not a little continent at the bottom of a ball. It is the perimeter of our world pond. Okay. The Earth is 70% water.
Mhm.
Large bodies of water at rest lay flat. And that's where we live. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. So you go there, the ice plateau is like 200 feet over your head.
Mhm.
That's because we live in the Antarctic basin, right? Versus, now let's see some crazy stuff, right? Versus in the heliocentric model, the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So when you watch the sunset, you have to believe that you're falling over backwards on a ball, which is making the sun appear to go down. You're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound.
Why would it be faster than the speed of sound?
Well, because it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Sound is like 680 or 700 miles an hour. Okay. So you're on this ball, sun's over there, and you're falling over backwards, right? That's how the sun sets in the heliocentric model. While that's going on, you're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. Interesting number, right?
Mhm.
And we're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour. If that's not bad enough, that entire system is moving sideways at 1.2 million miles an hour, right? All of these motions are going on, but the stars remain in the exact same position every year. You know, go out tonight, mark where the stars are. Go out next year, same time, same night. The stars are in the exact same position, but we're billions of miles from where we were last year or last decade, you know, trillions of miles. But
Mhm.
everything remains the same. How could that be? And the answer is because we're not flying through the universe. We're on the Earth pond, and everything we see in the sky is within the Earth system.
Okay. So just a random question for our listeners to like kind of give some backstory. How did you get to discover this or on a personal level? Like, how did you begin to understand this if everything is so hard to find?
It wasn't hard to find 6 years ago when I started because YouTube was even recommending. You watch a flat Earth video, they'd recommend another one from a flat Earth researcher. And I think this, you know, everyone there's been people all throughout history that have known the Earth is flat. But like, let's say I was living in 1950, 60. You know, where I was living in the 60s, and we had a group of people that knew the Earth was flat. How are we going to tell people? What are we going to do? Mail letters?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but the internet came around in 1990s to 2000, and it got away from them, right? So now it's all being censored. It's, you know, I expect one day that they're going to not allow flat Earth videos online, but I think that'll cause a bigger problem than if they just kind of try to ignore it. And
Well, we're seeing that in a lot of areas right now.
Oh yeah,
The restructuring of what's allowed to be spoken about.
So how did I get into it is just like every other flat earther. kicking and screaming. I don't want to look, but screw you. I'm going to disprove flat Earth, and I'm going to prove the globe. And that's how you become a flat earther, right? When you had enough of hearing the nonsense, and then you say, you know, I've got every proof. Boats over the horizon, sticks and shadows from Aristophanes, you know, seasons, day and night, sunsets over the ocean. None of that works on a flat Earth. Wrong. It all works on a flat Earth. And some of that does not work on a ball Earth.
Okay.
So
Okay.
So that's how I got into it, trying to debunk it.
Okay.
So let me ask you guys, you know, what would be, you know, we only have an hour. So what would be your best reason that you believe you live on a spinning ball?
My first thought is, what about the other planets? Like if they've, and I mean, and then we think, and then you immediately think of the people that have gone to space, and I'm not trying to go so far as to disprove like everything or my life's a lie, you know. I think that these other people have seen the Earth, and then the other planets, like would they be like that as well?
So the other planets, the only photos, the only images of these other worlds come from two sources, NASA and Disney. And right now, Disney is more credible than NASA. Huh. But if you look, this is the picture of Pluto that NASA gave us a few years ago, right? Somehow deep in space, they got a full Pluto, right? That's, you know, not a half Pluto. Somehow the sun, which is the size of a star at that distance, is lighting it up. And there's this desert that kind of looks like the dog Pluto, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does. It's funny.
It kind of, maybe that's my imagination. But so you know, Jupiter. So Jupiter is this gaseous planet, and NASA has videos of these bands going in opposite directions. You know, some of them go clockwise, some of them go counterclockwise. There's storms. The red dot is bigger than the Earth, and it's a hurricane that never stops. But in 2016, they had their old picture from 2014 that's in every book, every science book. But in 2016, they said they got another one with the Northern Lights. They photographed the Northern Lights. The picture looks ridiculous, but let's just assume that's real. If you overlay the two pictures, every single cloud is in the exact same position. So you have to either believe that clouds on a stormy planet, gaseous planet, never change, or NASA's lying. We never went to the moon. Nobody's been to space because space doesn't exist. That's a lot.
I think that,
I'm looking at your faces.
Go ahead, Emily.
My thought on it too is like, then, I mean, on a very spiritual, energetic perspective, like the different galaxies, the different planets, those sort of things, you can astral project there though.
Well, so here's the thing. Astral projection is very interesting, but your mind will wrap whatever belief you have around what you're seeing. So if the Earth is flat and you brought somebody up to 200,000 feet, they would see a sphere, right? If they believed it was a sphere, because they're seeing a circle, and their brain is going to tell them they're seeing a sphere.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, astrology, I used to laugh at astrology. Like, how is Jupiter, a gaseous, you know, semi-gaseous planet, 25 billion miles away, or whatever the number is, 25 million miles away, going to affect my life? How does that have any influence on my life when it can't even tug on the moon? You know, it doesn't affect our tides. How does it affect my life? But then when you realize that these things are energetic points of light within our Earth system, they're all named after gods. When you zoom in on a star with our super zoom cameras, they don't look anything like what NASA shows us. These, you know, live pictures of stars are truly amazing. When you look at that, I'm showing you guys Arcturus and then Capella, another amazing star, sacred geometry, shapes that you see, and colors. Yeah.
For our listeners, it looks like this really incredible ball of light. You can check it out. We're going to post this on our YouTube channel, so be sure you go there to look at it. But it looks really incredible. And
you're saying this is a legitimate picture, or this is a legitimate video?
These are videos I took myself.
Out of what?
Okay. So our consumer optics have outgrown their lies. So you can get a Nikon P900 super zoom camera for a couple $100, and you can zoom in and see these amazing things in the sky. Okay. You can zoom in on the moon, because the moon is within the Earth system. And it's, you know, if let's say everyone knew the Earth was flat, Okay. And you go out and that everything was small and close. And you went out, you see the moon in the day sky. You're like, it's obviously within the Earth system. I could see the sky behind it. And then some guy comes along and tries to convince you that we're spinning out of control through an infinite vacuum. You'd laugh at them. There's no way they can convince you. But we've been so brainwashed since before we can talk. Every television show, Sesame Street, the Teletubbies, all movies, all television shows, all space movies, it's all to program our minds to believe we live on this prison planet.
What benefit would that play? Like,
That was exactly my question of like, why?
So, well, I mean, there's other
Why the
things.
lie?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm fairly conspiratorial myself, and I have a lot of questions. And I think that I struggle with holding on to any sense of truth, because if some things are false, then what is everything else? But that's my own personal battle. What
Right.
benefit would come of this if they were lying to us?
So they want you to believe that you are a random accident that happened after a big bang, you know, where all the planets formed and all the stars formed and left a vacuum in between somehow. And lightning struck and created some DNA. Impossible, but it did. And then it, you know, mutated into a fish that grew legs, that turned into a monkey, that turned into a human, and that you're spinning out of control in space. Where an asteroid could take you out at any second, where you're insignificant in a godless or distant God universe. Okay, that's what they want you to feel. Versus the reality is, we are at the center of creation, and we are powerful spiritual beings that have free will, and nobody has dominion over us, and that our thoughts can literally create our reality. But they want to keep us in fear and feeling powerless and willingly giving our power away, because they can't take it unless we willingly give it. So we're trapped in this system where where we've agreed to give our power away and allow people to rule over us.
And that, so are you a proponent of other like really strong conspiracies too? I mean, I'm sorry, I hope I don't offend you by using the word conspiracy, but it's like the assumption that everyone is lying to us about everything.
Well, unfortunately, there is a lot of conspiracies in this world. I mean, if you look at the New York event, I hope you guys have looked into that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that one alone shows you that there's evil people in this world.
Yeah.
False flags, and yeah, I agree. This particular one's just like, why would they change it to where they would say that this is round? Like, what would propone that?
Imagine a world where tyranny was happening, where, you know, they're just crazy tyranny against the people, you know, maybe locking them down and forcing them to wear face diapers and, you know, and insisting that they get injections. Just imagine that. Imagine if you knew that maybe there's other lands out there that are not under tyrannical control. Would maybe you just pick up and go? Would maybe you would leave our realm and go somewhere else to cross the flat earth plane? What if you knew that you have nobody has any say over you, and you take your power back? This is the analogy I make is from the documentary with Keanu Reeves called The Matrix. You familiar with it?
The documentary, I actually haven't seen that. Christy had to educate me on The Matrix a while.
Did you miss it out?
I recommend that you watch it.
Fundamentals.
Yeah,
I know.
So I recommend that you watch it. Neo at the beginning
down.
is depressed. He's like, something's wrong with the world, and he's trying to figure it out. That's because his conscious mind is separated from his soul's journey. His soul knows the truth of the world. And then by the end of the movie, Neo figures out who he is, where he is, what he is, and the power of his mind. Yeah. And he takes his power back. And that's literally what flat earth is. So we are in this crazy spiritual war, which is insane what's going on in this world. And, you know, imagine if all of the world, all of the people of the world just united. Like tomorrow morning, forget countries, forget everything. That's all why we united.
Do the podcast.
Yeah.
Trying.
The elite are gone. They're done. They're little gnats. Go away, little elite. And there's nothing they could do because everybody would be united. But they've divided us by countries, by states, by religion, by political parties, by sports teams, by sexes. They're dividing the sexes. Go ahead.
So I'm a strong believer in community. I'm a strong believer in the idea, and I'm not going to say tribalism necessarily, but we need to bond with other people. And so I guess there's like this natural inclination for us to find this commonality amongst different groups of people. And I'm sure if we think hard enough, we look hard enough, we could find commonality amongst every single person, every single thing, you know. But I
Of
think
course.
that there's a role that community plays, though. But I see what you mean. Like, I agree with the divisiveness.
Yeah, and now they've taken it even a new level. You're not allowed to touch anybody. We're electrical,
I
spiritual
agree.
beings. We need touch.
Our heart
And then
spectrum, 12 feet.
right, so and then we're not allowed to see people's faces when we're outside, right? So they're literally taking away our humanity. And you know, when the way I look at it is, you're walking down the street in like a busy city, and you have a sea of people coming at you, all of these faces, pre-COVID, right? And your brain is processing all these faces. You may even be talking on the phone, you may be thinking about something else, and then across the crowd, a familiar face. You know, there's Emily, there's David, whatever. You're like, hey, and you, in the corner of your eye, you see it, and your brain goes, friend, right? And then you make this connection. Well, all of that processing power is literally filling the air. And then I say it's just like the Force, right? In Star Wars.
Yeah.
So they're literally taking the Force away. They're taking away our humanity. They're taking away our spiritual connection to each other, because there's an event coming that is, you know, if they get away with what they're doing, there's a massive event, I believe, coming very soon. So in the next couple of years, if not days or weeks or months.
A lot of people, I think, yeah, I don't know. Go ahead, Emily.
I mean, to kind of break off from the like whole masking thing, because I think there is so much divisiveness around that too. Because again, like in the highest and best of everyone, like I don't want people to get sick, and I think that there is an element of that does come into it, and whether or not you feel the energy of that or not, and I do feel like there's the low vibration that sits around the virus, and like not letting that in is super essential, and there's all that sort of stuff too. However, going back just a little bit to the actual flat Earth in and of itself. So if Antarctica is the rim of the lake, what exactly is beyond that? Like what is on that bigger plane? Like I'm feeling some Lord of the Ring vibes on like super intense levels of like, we crossed now like the barren plains. Like, is it barren plains? Like what is outside of that on as far as the flat Earth theory?
So Admiral Byrd in 1957-ish explored out there and said, there's land bigger than the United States, untouched by humans, filled with resources. And then immediately after he said that, the Antarctic Treaty went up, where all the countries in the world signed on and said, no one can explore Antarctica for environmental reasons, for military reasons, right? We need to protect it.
The Nazis are stationed up there anyway, so we can't go up there.
I don't believe any of that. And, and so that treaty can't be questioned by you or me or any corporation or anything until the year 2041, right? Wow. Can't even be questioned, right? So we must protect the penguins and the ice, but we can deforest the Amazon and plant palm oil trees and do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So what's going on there? So anything beyond the shoreline of Antarctica or over as high as we can get, which isn't very high, is speculation. But I think that there might be other worlds out there. I think there's a dome. There may be nothing beyond the dome, or there may be other worlds with other suns beyond the dome.
So the dome meaning our personal atmosphere for the Earth?
Well, yeah. So I believe that space is water, and I'm not a Bible guy, but if you look at the Bible, page 1, Genesis says God separated the waters from the waters with the firmament, and the firmament is a dome that separates us. And if you look at our head of NASA, the guy that founded NASA, Werner von Braun, the Nazi Russian scientist, rocket scientist, his gravestone, it has his birth date, his death date, and it's in Psalms 19:1, which talks about the firmament. Okay, why did he do that? Is that them telling us, or is that a deathbed confession? You know, I don't know, but why is he even writing that, having that on his gravestone?
Yeah, that'd be something. I was talking to some people about this theory, trying to get some other people's opinions, and they said they were curious to see if you had an explanation or like a cohesive, comprehensive idea of how we began, if this can correlate to the Genesis, creation story, or if it can correlate to the Big Bang.
Yeah, so there's, if you know the Bostock saga, it basically talks about how life began at the center, and there was a sun in the center. So imagine the Earth as a massive frozen plain. And you pop a sun out in the center and it melts this puddle out, and everybody lives there. And that sun oscillates, just like our sun oscillates. It goes out wider and comes in. And then, so what was the question? How did we start?
I
Well,
guess just if you have
I
like
think
an idea around the two.
I think we didn't evolve. We were created after God's image. So maybe we're all pieces of God.
I believe that in a
I
way.
don't
Yeah.
know, but we definitely, you don't have mutation after mutation after mutation and develop eyes that can see color and distance and, and see
Well,
things.
are you familiar with the idea? There's this, do you know who Greg Braden is or Bruce
Yeah, very
Lipton?
well. Yep.
Oh yeah, good. So they have this book called Spontaneous Evolution. I think this book like shook me awake when I was like 16, and it says that evolution doesn't necessarily occur on these long, expansive, like developmental things, that it happens immediately. And it can happen. I mean, they did bring up like the 100th monkey theory, and now that they're proven that that doesn't work like that, But I think
Right.
that at least in some course, they believe that evolution occurs spontaneously.
Well, that's a nice belief, but never has anybody ever seen any species turn into another species.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, but we're evolving right now. We're watching ourselves evolve.
Well, yeah, we are, and we have it's called microevolution, where men like certain type of women, so they'll breed with them, and that'll happen, and and we change, but we're not turning into monkeys. Monkeys are still around; they haven't turned into humans.
No, but we can train our minds. Think of like
Right.
neuroplasticity, the fact that we can on a smaller level every day, we can change our minds to think one way and then train it to think another way, and
But I think that's
Right.
different than changing species. So he's talking about changing core DNA into something else core DNA. So I think
Right.
like that's
Right,
where
right.
the difference is coming in.
it could be interesting. I mean,
I
I'm just, I guess I
mean,
don't know.
I'm still intrigued by what's beyond the like ice wall and like its thoughts on that. But also
Yeah.
on top of that too, I would love to hear thoughts on the dinosaurs after we dive into that space.
Yeah. So that's something else. Let me talk about my app, because
yeah,
if you try to Google Flat Earth, you're going to get exhausted. And what the app does is it brings you all the information really close together. And people say, oh, he's selling his app, that's why he's doing this, is nonsense. Well, that's not it. I had my own business where I was doing extremely well, and I walked away from it all just to do this for a good reason. So what the app does is it shows you how the sun and the moon and the stars are a perfect clock. So the sun, just think of, if you're looking down at a circular pond,
Okay.
the sun is just over the pond, and it's circling around in a circle over the pond. It doesn't go underneath a flat pizza or anything like that. It stays over it, and you can only see the sun at a certain distance, and then it just its light can't push through any farther. But the sun goes around once every 24 hours, so it keeps track of the hours and the days. It laps the moon once every 28 days, so the position and phase of the moon keep track of the weeks and the months, or the moons, they call it. And the stars, those 12 zodiacs, circle around, and they go slightly faster than the sun. So slightly that they only lap the sun once a year. So right now the sun is in one constellation, and the one that's following it will move up to it and catch up for the next month. So the sun will be in a zodiac for about a month for the year, and then it'll reset after the year is over. So the zodiac keeps track of the seasons and the years, right? So also people say, what about time zones? Well, wherever the sun is, it's noon, and then you can just count the time zones and see what time it is everywhere else.
Okay.
So what I say to people for the app is every day there's a new video that shows up in the corner called the featured video of the day, and I say, take the Flat Earth app challenge. Watch the video every day for 2 weeks, and after that 2 weeks, if you're not convinced that the Earth is not a globe, you can send me your one proof that you think the Earth is a ball. Not only will I refund your $2.99, I'll give you a full Bitcoin. Okay,
a
full
like 30
Bitcoin.
bucks now.
It's like $30,000 right now.
Oh shit, is it? Oh wow.
Yes.
Well,
I know nothing about
aren't
it.
you so generous?
So
Damn.
all you need is one proof of the globe, and what you'll notice, you're going to get some hate in your chat, and a lot of them are just bots. If you go to their channel, there's empty channels, or they'll just insult me, but they won't offer a proof. They'll say crazy things, but they don't offer any proof. So that should make you wonder there. And I've been doing this for a while, so there's millions of us now, and it's growing rapidly every day. And once you understand, as I talked about when the why the lie is, it really, you take your power back. You become, you know, more awake and aware of the world that you're in, and you become more powerful because we are on solid ground. We're not spinning out of control in space. But before you send me your proof, if you hit the little question mark button, up come all of the top questions. You know, hey, what about eclipses? Or, you know, what about southern flights? Or, you know, what about seasons, which we talked about, or ships over the horizon? And if you click any one of those, up come all the videos that YouTube won't feed you that will show you how this works. And then you can do these tests yourself. Don't just believe a video online. Just be like, oh, I never really thought of that. You know, ships do disappear from the bottom up, but there's another reason for that. So it has all sorts of stuff in it that will, you know, help you learn. And it has all sorts of different settings and backgrounds and all sorts of stuff. But enough about the app.
That's
I mean, it helps my brain, honestly, to think of the world as a clock. I'm not going to lie, because it's really hard to think of it as that thing, which I do see where you're coming from as far as the like, well, that deprives us of knowledge, because it's really hard to comprehend the whole ball system and the way astrology works and all those different things. Where if you think of it as a clock, it does make a lot more sense, like genuinely, as far as like on a way of understanding level. So, I mean, there's something to be said of the overcomplication versus the simplicity.
Is that Occam's razor?
And that's the thing, you know, and people that, you know, people have, you know, there's generally good people out there that just have guttural reactions, or like, the earth is not flat. We've known for 500 years. Well, no, we haven't. We've known for less than 100 years. We've been lied to for less than 100 years. Everybody knew before that. You know, if you know anything about Tartaria was a worldwide civilization here in the 1800s. Worldwide, peaceful, advanced civilization, building, you know, pyramids that line up with stars, and you know, they had airships cruising all over the earth. But all of that has been taken away from us to control us. It's all about control. It's not about our health or wealth. It's about control.
I agree. I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are on the hollow earth theory, or the hollow moon theory, or the spaceship moon theory. What are your ideas on those?
So the idea of the hollow earth theory came when it's literally, I think it's a gatekeeping model to make you, you know, people that are trying to figure out what's going on, you know, where are these other lands that maybe Admiral Byrd saw, and maybe he was flying in the earth. It still makes you believe in a heliocentric, godless universe, when in fact that we are, you know, the earth is the basement of the universe. Okay. It's the basement of the universe, and everything we see is within the earth system, not the soul lure system, right? They're literally trying to steal our souls. They're trying to take our souls away. We're here on a soul's journey, and our only real goal here is to not lose control of our soul, not sell our soul, not have it taken over by evil, right? So let's talk about you know, why can't we see Mount Everest if the earth is flat? And the answer is because we can't see that far through the atmosphere. It just becomes too opaque, and it'll even block the sunlight. But if we're looking at a mountain, there's light bouncing off of that mountain. That's what we're seeing, and that's less bright than the sun. So there's a place in Aluja, France, where you can look out across the water where Mount Canigou should be at 175 miles away, but you can't see it because the top of that mountain should be a mile below a physical curve of the earth. According to heliocentric, you know, globe math, it should be a mile below, but 2 days a year, the sun lines up with it. And as the sun goes beyond the mountain, all of a sudden you can see not just the tops of the mountains, you can see the entire mountain, where their very tops should be a mile below a physical curve, but we can see them, right? So the question is, how many stretches of flat water does it take to make a sphere? Nah, right? Water.
You look so unamused, Emily.
Yeah.
No, I'm intrigued. Like, it's really intriguing to hear all of it that way.
It's hard for me to comprehend at first. I was like, oh, it's a joke. Got it.
Sorry.
No,
a lot of people,
funny.
they short circuit. The problem is the globe is has an advantage over the flat earth. And that is because you can just believe. Belief is the enemy of knowing. You can believe, and then it's over. Sometimes when I do an interview on a show and they say, tell me about yourself, I tell people that I went to 3.5 years of medical school where I realized allopathic medicine was no good.
Yeah.
And I took a more natural path. And then a couple minutes later in the interview, I talk about how belief is the enemy of knowing. I said, for example, you guys believe I went to medical school, right? But I didn't. If belief is easy, you go, oh, all right, I believe it. He's a trustworthy guy. He's wearing a bow tie, you know, whatever. And you believe. But if you really want to know something, you'd have to spend a week trying to figure out where I live, where I went to school, getting transcripts, you know, and finding out that, no, I never did go, right? I hate even using that example because I hate lying, but it's so easy to believe. It takes zero effort, right?
Well, then, I mean, going back to the globe thing too, like when you look at a globe, all of the continents are out of proportion to one another because they shrank Africa and they did all these different things. And that is like 100% even like accepted as concrete truth. And yet the globe is still taught.
You know it. So very good. You're speaking my language. So
I mean, I do get that because has been manipulated so intensely over the years and historically and all of that.
You guys haven't come to the full understanding yet that NASA is just a Hollywood studio and they've never been to space. But there's a picture, it's a 2012 image from NASA of Earth. And you can see, you know, the United States, and if you measured from Baja across California, we know the mileage on that is 934 miles. Well, you would need 8.5 of those to show the diameter of the Earth, but 8.5 of those is way bigger than the Earth that they're showing us. So you have two deductions. One, the Earth is only like 5,000 miles around or something, or NASA's lying and we never went to the moon.
I guess one thing that makes me question that is the idea that all the people that go into the idea of the moon landing, like they would have to make sure that every single one of those people was consistent with their stories, that nobody like came out with anything. Like I think that's a lot. Like I'm trying to retrain my brain to think that like that's a lot of credit to give people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they don't get their story straight. If you listen to all the astronauts that went to the moon and space, they all say, I didn't see stars. I never saw stars. I did see stars. You can't see stars. You can see stars. They don't know. They're all like, their stories are so mixed up, it's unbelievable. And you know, if you ever looked at,
that was a pre-internet time. So we think about it in the internet space of like anyone could have come out and said anything.
No,
really,
we're looking at time now when the astronauts
write a letter to everyone.
Yeah, and astronauts now that talk about their time in space, they can't get their star story straight. And if you ever watched the you know, the first guys that went to the moon, their press conference, they literally looked like somebody shot their dog and they're having a press conference. Not that they were the first guys on the moon that, you know, were running around the moon and they made it back to Earth. They were being forced to lie. So again, there's so many things with the moon that, you know, if you watch my interviews on my app, if you hit the web button and then watch my interviews, just like I'm doing with you guys now with the video, there's so many proofs that, you know, for video podcasts that show you that they're lying, that they're faking on the space station. They're using green screens. There was a time where Chris Hadfield was singing and the other astronaut that's holding a microphone, they're not even in the same room, and he stuck the microphone right into his neck. Okay. But because they had these overlaying issues, right? So they're faking everything. There's nobody on a space station.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's insane.
So, well, one thought on that though, like why couldn't they send it up to, like, why? Okay, so if space is not real, right, and they're not like way out in space and we're looking back at our like orb of different things, like why couldn't they send it up into the layers of the dome where the other planets are then still? Like why couldn't they still go to the moon and look down?
The other planets, the planets are, in my mind, not physical. They're energetic bodies that affect our lives. And there's no floaty space part in space. Do you know that NASA is the biggest consumer and owner of helium companies? Right?
Okay.
So they launch out of Antarctica thousands and thousands of what they call satelloons. What do they call them? Satelloons. So they're satellites that are hanging from balloons, right? And they don't really publicize that very much. So they send up these satellites that are 8,000 pounds, and they stay up there for a year or 2 years at a time. And so they're using these things that are hanging from balloons. They're not falling around an Earth, a spinning ball Earth that's flying through space, which would be impossible. Think about all those motions I showed you. The Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. It's orbiting 66,000 miles an hour, flying 500,000 miles an hour. And somehow these satellites are able to keep up on this curving path, for decade after decade. None of that makes any sense.
Well, then talk about like the internet and cell phones and things. Like if it doesn't broadcast up to satellite signals and then back down, then how does that work?
Well, they don't even claim that satellites do that. That 99% of all worldwide communications are done with undersea cables, undersea fiber optics. And if you look at the map of the cables, there's no connection between like Santiago and Australia. They go all the way up into the north, kind of like their flight paths do. And
can I just give you the massive amount of props for having not only an answer to every question we've had, but a graphic to go along with it? Like the listeners can't see it, but every time we've asked a question, he's pulled up an exact graphic to answer it, and it's fucking incredible. So I just want to give you credit for that.
It's because the globe lie is such a stupid lie. There's only a set number of questions that you can have, and we've all been programmed to ask the same questions. No offense to you guys, because I did it too. This is Flat Earth 101. I know every question you're going to ask. Right? And if you run short, I'll remind you what they are.
I want to throw a curveball then. So if these different energetic bodies are the different planets, and we can actually project to the different energetic body, I get that as far as that goes. Why is it just because of the limited belief of, hey, the Earth is round and therefore we can project to these different energetic bodies? But like me, I'm a professional psychic, that's like what I do. Could then, I mean, in theory, you could then energetically travel or astral travel to one of these different places that are out within the Antarctica thing or up the layers of the cake, etc.
Right.
It's interesting. Is there like psychic proof, I guess is the best way to describe it? Have psychics come forward and been like, hey, this is something that we've channeled and been downloaded? Because I've been downloaded kind of similar information to what you're talking about, but I'm just wondering if there's that.
Yeah, we wrap our world belief around, we wrap our information that we get around a world belief. So look at an astrologer. They get good information about planets and their motions and everything, and they wrap it around a ball because that's what they were taught. But then astrologers that have woken up to the flat Earth, they're like, whoa, these motions make more sense on a flat Earth. And then all of a sudden, their entire world opens up. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Tartaria
right now.
With all of their domes and all of these buildings that they were supposed to be built when there was horses and buggies. We can't build these buildings today, but they all had these towers and domes on them that are some sort of free energy, some sort of communication network, more of a psychic, thing. Mm-hmm. If you look at these churches with these organs, these crazy organs, look into the church organs. This is all about sound and vibration and intention. Yeah. And they don't want us to know that, we don't need this technology. We can do this stuff with our brains. But the evil that took over, there was some reset. Maybe, some people call it the mud flood that happened, sometime in the late 1800s that changed the world. And the people that know, that were able to keep the knowledge, they're the ones that took over, and they became evil, in a way that, most of us can't even fathom.
Interesting.
I saw this, I don't remember where exactly it came from, but it's talking about the harnessing of human energy and the use of the pyramid. And so they say like that they correspond to like the pyramids, like in metaphysics or in witchcraft, we use pyramids to magnify energy, and we use it like energetically to create as well. But they say something about like the church with the steeples and all the stuff that they use it. They think that it's like a harnessment of human energy, and the same thing with our skyscrapers.
100%.
That's how they work.
100%. The churches might have been healing centers. There might have been communication centers. Why would you, back horse and buggies? They're building these things with these stones that are going so high up in the sky. Is it just for, looks? Yeah. No, this is technology. If you look into the World's Fairs, the World's Fairs were basically the takeover of the pre-existing, what was here. They didn't build those buildings and destroy them just for a silly little fair. There was a reset, a takeover you know, and it wasn't that long ago. There may be a cycle, you know, that's 150, 200 years where there's a reset, and we might be going into that reset right now. Not
Yeah,
sure.
I've heard there's a lot of different ideas around the reset. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's, I mean, I guess
The
I
World
don't
Tour has
know.
always intrigued me in that space though too. I've always been like,
Yeah.
one, why don't we have them anymore? And two, why the fuck do we build all of that shit and then destroy it? Like it's always
Yeah,
been
and if you
confusing.
look at the buildings, there's some channels like on the app. If you go to the web button and hit the Mud Floods Tataria button, there's all sorts of shows and channels that you should subscribe to. The one called John Levy, JONLEVI, amazing stuff. He does these 20-minute videos that will blow your mind. And then, you know, once you understand that all of our history, his story, is a lie, then you start waking up to your true power. It's an amazing thing.
So we are a spirituality based podcast, and I was really curious like how this was going to go and how it would be able to correspond to that idea.
Yeah.
So you believe that this is a spiritual concept and that it's of necessity for our spirits for us to wake up to our power.
100%. So the way they've gotten away with this tyranny is because people don't even realize a spiritual war is a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. The elite believe it. They do wizardry, you know, whatever you want to call it. I mean, look at the spirit cooking stuff that's going on. You know, are you guys aware of that?
No.
With Maria, whatever her name is, who
Bohemia Grove and shit.
Yeah, yeah, she taught Lady Gaga. I mean, it's crazy stuff that's going on. But literally, they're after our energy. The analogy of the Matrix, Emily, you got to go watch the Matrix. Okay, it's really, they're using our energy. They need us. They need our spiritual energy to do things, to create
They need our
things.
labor.
Yeah, well, they need our labor, but also, you know, it's our spiritual energy that allows them to do what they want. So if you're living in fear and, you know, you have no idea who you are and you doubt God's existence, you know, there's a quote in the Bible, a verse in the Bible that says, once you see my creation, you no longer have any excuse to deny my existence, is basically what it says. And that's what they don't want. So this is why the lie is so big. You know, there's people that have found God and are spiritual and are good lives and are living by God's law. Don't kill anybody. Don't steal from anybody. Help your neighbor. You know, that's basically it. As long as you're a good person, it doesn't matter what you believe, in my opinion. But they want people that can deny God. In the heliocentric model, you can say, well, you know, this is all a random accident. And then you can deny God. But if everybody woke up to flat earth tomorrow, then they have no excuse anymore. They can't deny God.
Though. People, I mean,
What's
we're already in a point in time where everyone's like, we are starting to question things so much right now, and I believe that it does cause a bit of complacency, or it causes a bit of like a disturbance on the inside, and maybe sometimes that's like just the first step to get to this like progression, but it can cause a lot of people a disparaging amount of soul like happiness, you know. But we'll see. Anyway,
one last really quick question, because I know you have a very hard stop coming up, and we need to let you go. Could you just tell me about dinosaurs for a second then?
Yeah.
Like, I just have the dinosaur question. Like,
what's the question?
If we can't get hit by a comet or a meteor and have everything die out, as you kind of said, then what the fuck happened?
So write this website down. It's Crow with 2 R's, 777 radio, CRROW 777 radio.
I've seen sevens everywhere. 777 everywhere.
.com.
Oh my god.
Crow, and look up the dinosaur-ish, the episodes that they did. The first hour is free. The second you have to subscribe, but you can do the first hour. We'll do it, but I highly recommend subscribing. And dinosaurs, in my opinion, never existed millions of years ago. Yes, there was large giants. There was giant humans. There's giant lizards. But just go buy a Stegosaurus doll, a male and a female, and tell me how they mated. All right. I mean, and structurally, these Tyrannosaurus Rexes and all these things, none of these things could have existed. All of the dinosaur bones in the museums they're plaster. They're not real. They find one bone at the top of a mountain. It happened to be a whale bone, and they create a Tyrannosaurus Rex out of it. Like, oh, this is that, and it, and it has claws and it, teeth like this, and it's all pseudoscience. It's all pseudoscience. The guy that thought up dinosaurs in the 1800s, some royal guy. He named them dinosaurs. And then a year later, his team discovered the first dinosaur ever. How come previous civilizations, how come when they were building the pyramids, they never found dinosaurs, right? They made it up, and a year to the day, they found the first dinosaur. That's them just rubbing it in our faces. And the reason for the lie is to make you believe in evolution and make you also believe that that you should be in fear of an asteroid. Just go put a Google search to notify you every time NASA discovers a new asteroid or something heading our way that could wipe us out. It's every other day. It's every other day. It's just to keep you in fear. It's all nonsense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been great, David. Thank you so much for coming in, man. Is there any way that our listeners can get a hold of you or any particular thing? What's the name of your app?
The app is the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. If you're watching this on a computer, you can just point your phone there, and it'll pop right up. But if you just search Flat Earth Clock, it'll come up. It's by Blue Water Bay. On Android, you have to have operating system 8.0 or higher, and an iPhone 6 or better for the App Store. But it's $2.99. Take the challenge, send me your proof, and get a Bitcoin. All right. So again, all the information's there. If you want to look into this most important topic, you can try to do it on your own, but Google's not going to really cooperate. So the app will get you there. And yes, I'm selling it because I put tens of thousands of dollars into it, and this is how I keep my internet.
You don't have to justify it.
I do.
Psychic,
there's
so
so many
people all the
trolls
time
out
are
there.
like, give us free
I
readings.
feel very,
Like,
attacked. But it's I could have made. You just read the reviews. People are like, I would have paid $30 for this app. It's the only app I've ever purchased. It's really a cool app, if I do say so myself. Well, my YouTube channel is DITRH, just the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, DITRH. That's cool. And my podcast and website by the same name, The Flat Earth Podcast. Pretty simple. So if you have a phone that has a podcast player on it, open that up, The Flat Earth Podcast. Listen to the first 10 episodes, and you too will lose the respect of your family and friends also.
And on that note, thanks for coming on, David.
All right, guys.
Thank you, listeners, so much.
Send me a link when this is up, all right?
Absolutely.
We will. Absolutely. We'll include your links below, too.
Thank you. See you.
Have a very good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Also, Perceptionists, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We genuinely appreciate you. You can find us, of course, on all of your podcast apps, whatever you're listening to this on, but also on YouTube if you want to see some of David's amazing graphics that he just showed us. Be sure you check out the Perceptionist Anonymous YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram at Perceptionist Anonymous. You can like us on Facebook, Perceptionist Anonymous. And we're still collecting your crazy, outlandish, spiritual, amazing stories. So please send those to us because we'd love to have a Stitch episode with a bunch of people sharing their stories together. So email us, or of course, if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, you can email us as well. It's perceptionistanonymous@gmail.com. And we genuinely appreciate you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, remember...
Oh, yeah, we should say it for the show. Or, never mind.
Okay.
You're magical as fuck.